Question 2. Energy from sun is released by nuclear fusion. So remind yourself, fusion is when small nuclei will join together to make a bigger nucleus. And in the process, energy is released in the form of radiation. It says complete the sentence. Nuclear fusion is the joining together of small nuclei. During nuclear fusion, the total mass of the particles decreases. This is because energy is being given out in the form of radiation. Next part says nuclear fusion of deuterium is difficult to achieve on Earth because of the high temperature needed. Electricity is used to increase the temperature of 4 grams. This is the value of mass. I can't use mass in grams. I'll have to change it to kilograms. So I'll have to do 4 divided by 1,000. This will leave me with 0.004 kg. And it says by 50 million degrees Celsius. So by means this is increase in temperature. In other words, it is change in temperature. Say specific heat capacity of deuterium is 5200 joules per kilogram degree Celsius. This is the value of specific heat capacity, which has letter C. Says calculate the energy needed to increase the temperature of the deuterium by this temperature. So we need to figure out the value of E equals question. If you look at the physics equation sheet, you will see there's an equation that links E, M, C, and change in temperature, and that is Q is equal to M times C times delta T. Instead of letter E, we are using letter Q. But Q also is for the energy supplied. All I have to do is replace them with the values and solve, and I'll end up with the answer. So instead of mass, I can write down 0.004. The value of C is 5200, and the change in temperature is 50 million. If you plug these values in your calculator, you'll end up with an answer, and that will be 1040 and then 6 zeros. Joules. The next part says the idea of obtaining power from nuclear fusion was investigated using models. Now you have to remember 2 keywords here. Investigation is being carried out and it is being done using models. It says the models were tested before starting to build the first commercial nuclear fusion power plant. They were also tested. That's another keyword here. It suggests 2 reasons why models were tested. So normally, when you do any test and we use models, we use them for better understanding. So we can say the first part, we can say for better understanding of the process. Then there is also another reason for using models, because models are cheaper than the real option. So I can say cheaper to use models. Number 3, we are doing investigations. So why do we do investigations? We do investigations to figure out what the outcome will be. So we can say to make predictions. We can also think about safety precautions which will need to be considered because they've been tested. So to consider safety risks. This question is important because if I was doing exam, I would probably struggle on a question like this. But because now that I've seen this question and I've identified these 3 keywords, I'll keep these 3 words in mind. So if I come across a question like this in exam, I do not struggle on it. Next question says generating electricity using nuclear fusion will have fewer environmental effects than generating electricity using fossil fuels. Fewer environmental effects. and we are looking at fossil fuels. It says explain one environmental effect of generating electricity using fossil fuels. So we all know fossil fuels, what do they do? When burnt, they produce carbon dioxide. This carbon dioxide produced acts as a greenhouse gas. So I can say causes global warming. Another thing that you can consider here is that's option 1. Option 2 could be because when you burn fuel, it does produce oxides of sulfur and nitrogen. So I can say produces NO2 and SO2. Now, when these two gases dissolve in water, they produce acid. You can say cause acid rain. So you can approach this question in 2 different ways.